Evening, guys. Just a little bit of an impromptu podcast. Had quite a few requests to do a bit of a chat about the Frankie mix bait that we sell. So I thought, why not? Why not do it? Well, the story behind the Frankie mix bait was actually, it was actually the culmination of a few factors. A few customers had said that, why don't you do a more savoury type pop-up? Because we hadn't really got anything in the product list that was a savoury type hook bait. We'd only got the super orange. We've got fishy one with the TMAOs. So what happened is, I spoke to the flavorists that I use, and just speaking about different things, and then he told me about this extremely complex flavor that he did that contained over 20 different essential oils. So I ordered some of the flavor with the initial thing of just doing it in a pop-up. So I made some of the pop-ups. Everybody liked them. People were catching on them. Then a couple of lads suggested that I incorporate it into a bait. So a few people said, why don't you put it into the super orange mix? Thought it would go well with it. And after initially agreeing with them, I thought, no. I'm not going to change the super orange. It's an extremely effective bait. Been getting used since 2008. A long time. Caught a hell of a lot of fish. English fish to well over £50. Lots and lots of fish been caught on the super orange over the years. Still the best selling bait that I make. So what I decided to do was, I'd been thinking about making a bait with a few elements in there, a couple of things that I was testing, and that's where the Frankie mix started. So put the bait together. I think it was 2020 when I put the bait together, the Frankie mix, and a couple of lads started testing it. One of the lads had an extremely good result on it in the late winter of 2021. And he said he's never seen a reaction in the cold months, cold water conditions, never seen a reaction to bait like this. And the fish they were getting crazy for it. And in a low stock water as well. This was a low stock water. There was 20 odd fish in this lake. And the fish were, well, he said it was as if it was June, how the fish were feeding on the bait. So the Frankie mix, it doesn't really contain many things that I haven't used before. There's a couple of elements in there that I'd never used before, but it just contains things that I'd used before at massively elevated levels. The pre-digested fish meal in the bait is at way higher levels than what I'd normally use. And pre-digested fish meal is a superb attractor. It's a fantastic ingredient to use in baits. But the only problem you got with pre-digested fish meal is that if you don't incorporate it into the right formula, you can have problems with the baits breaking down too quickly. So I knew that to counteract this, I could put whey protein concentrate in there at high levels, which I've done. And whey protein concentrate, again, is an extremely effective ingredient. Possibly one of the best ingredients I've ever used. I'm quite sure that because of the branch chain amino acid content of the ingredient, it attracts large fish, because I've got theories about branch chain amino acids. And then I boosted up the yeast levels in the bait, so the yeast levels are massively elevated from what I normally use. So we've got pre-digested fish meal in there, massively elevated, yeast massively elevated, and then we've got whey protein concentrate, massively elevated, and then also there's one other ingredient in there which are put in their elevated levels. So like I say, this bait is basically, it was a lot of things that I wanted to experiment with. And then the other ingredient that's in there that's massively elevated is seaweed. Seaweed is an absolutely superb ingredient. I've always used it in fish meal baits, right the way back to the very first fish meal bait that I ever came up with, the Wedgwood mix, seaweed in there. And seaweed is extremely effective. It's extremely attractive to carp. But you've got to be careful with how much seaweed you put into a bait because it won't roll, because it's a coarse ingredient. If you're using a coarse seaweed, some seaweeds are finely ground. But I've put it into the Frankie mix bait. It's twice as high as what I've ever used before. There's also an extremely effective shellfish extract in the Frankie mix. I had used this before, but never in a fish meal bait. And this really is a superb ingredient. I'm not going to give the game away on this one, what exactly it is, but it's a shellfish extract. So it's along the lines of your green lip mussels, etc. It's got all the same molecular cues in there as your things like green lip mussel, etc. And I stick that in the Frankfurter bait, you know. And this Frankfurter mix, this Frankie mix, as I call it, it's been a fantastic catcher. Well, it's caught the biggest English fish that any of our baits have ever caught, 61-pound 4-ounce mirror from Grenville Lake. And that was actually the biggest fish in the lake. And there was only Matt Kirkham using that bait on the lake. He was the only one introducing it. And it was actually, I mean, this sounds a little bit far-fetched, but it was actually the first bite that he had out of the lake using this bait. And it's basically the biggest fish in the lake. Now, the Frankie mix bait has also got spices and herbs in the bait. Now one of the spices I'd used before. I did find it to be effective. Did use it a long time ago. But the other one was a brand new thing that I'd never used. Now all the research that I did on it indicated that it was something that relaxes things, relaxes animals, etc. Now, I'm definitely of the opinion that if you can get something into a bait that relaxes the animal when it's eating it, then it's going to be very effective at catching them. Now, can't back this up with 100% veracity, but the results seem to indicate that this herb that I'm using is working extremely well on the bait. It's something that has been used in angling before, but don't ever see any reference to it. It's been used for roach fishing, etc. years ago, but never see any reference to it in regard to carp fishing. So that was another new thing in the bait. And as I say, the Frankie mix really has been a superb catcher. And the good thing that I've done about the bait is, which I am quite proud of, is it's firm enough to go out the throwing stick, but anyone who's used it will tell you that it breaks down very, very quickly, very quickly. And any bait that breaks down quickly is extremely attractive. And that's what I've done with this bait. It's perfectly usable, goes out in a throwing stick, but this bait breaks down quickly. People have said who've used the Super Orange that they thought, oh, it breaks down a little bit quicker. It does break down a lot quicker. I mean, you get people who just want to use the bait straight out the bag, and I tell them you won't get away with it with the Frankie mix, because it just breaks down that quickly. It's super soluble. It's a super soluble bait. So, yeah, I mean, the Frankie mix, it really is a top-notch fish meal bait, and the results definitely back this up. There's not a lot more that I can say about the Frankie mix, really, other than take a look at the white's caught, white's catching, and then just make your own mind up. See if it's warrants there. It's extra money. We charge more for this bait because it costs a lot more to make. So, you know, in these times now, it's actually unbelievable at the moment with the bait industry, because I did put my prices up this year, not by much. In fact, didn't put the price up nowhere near enough to cover the increase in prices. I mean, across the board, ingredients have gone up by 33% across the board. Some ingredients have doubled in price, which is actually unbelievable. Others have gone up by 50% or 75%. But in general, the outlay that we're putting out now to make the baits it's about 33% more. So as you can see, it's been tough times. It's been tough times in 2022 with all the cost of living crisis, etc. But we're still going. We're still making bait. But it's been extremely tough year. Hopefully we can carry on into 2023. Hopefully. It's been tricky. There's been times where I thought about calling it a day, but when people are catching on your bait and you're still selling bait, and this is my passion, this is what I want to do. I want to sell bait. So it's been a tricky year. It's been a tricky year. But with the results that we've had this year, 61, 52, numerous 40s, it's been an extremely good year for results for scientific baits. So there's not a lot more I can say about that, really, Now, another thing that I want to talk about is the FermEnzyme. The FermEnzyme's been misunderstood in some quarters. I've already done a podcast about it, but believe you me, it's an extremely effective additive. It's absolutely superb. If you employ it in the right way and do the incubation period, then you will get some very good results using that additive. But because I've already done a podcast about it, I won't talk about it too much. I mean, at the moment, I've got another enzyme reactive bait booster that's in test. Well, it was in test last year, but one thing or another didn't really give it a very extensive test. There's another one called FermEnzyme. Now, this is all based on milk proteins. So it's using the same cysteine protease enzyme that the FermEnzyme uses, but the actual base ingredients are milk protein based. There is a spice in there which you'll smell as soon as you open the pot. Well, if I start selling it, you'll smell it as soon as you open the pot, and that's it's cinnamon. It's cinnamon. I'll keep no secret about that one because it's very, very easy to identify. Whereas in the FermEnzyme, you can't identify the spice, but you can identify it in the FermEnzyme, it's cinnamon. And the results from testing this in the winter last year were very good. But for one reason or another, there was only a couple of anglers that had the FermEnzyme, but it's out there now with a few other anglers, and the results were very encouraging. We caught some fish using it in tough conditions, very tough conditions. But the price of milk proteins increased that much during 2022 that I was going to shelve the FermEnzyme because there's only so much that people will pay for bait. There's only so much money that people will pay for bait. And it's been a very tricky year this year. So I was going to shelve it, but then a few guys who have bait off me said no, they wanted to test it. And so there's been a few more pots made, and that's out there now for the test. But as I say, spoke about the Frankie mix bait. It's a superb fish meal bait. Very, very good quality. And the results, well, the results speak for themselves, don't they? The results speak for themselves. You know, when you're getting people going on lakes and they know when you're using the bait, catching the biggest fish in the lake, then I mean, I was actually overjoyed. I was actually overjoyed when Matt Kirkham caught that enormous fish from Grenville Lake. But there we go again. Just another short podcast. Just chatting a bit more about the Frankie mixed bait. As I say, it was something that was an amalgamation of various things that I wanted to do. I mean, the actual flavour that's in the Frankie mixed bait, it's unbelievable. It's superb flavour. It's highly complex. It's all based on essential oils. The guys that make it for me tell me that there's over 20 different essential oils in there. You know, and essential oils is one of my favourite attractors. It's an oil-based attractor that I put in there, and it just does the job. It just does the business. You know, it's caught some fish. So that's about as much as I can say about the Frank 30 without giving the game away. So all I'll do now is just plug the book, the Bait Anthology. It's still live on the website at the moment. It will be getting deactivated soon because I'm only doing small print runs. So the next time I order the books, which will be in the next few days, that'll probably be the last time that I order any, unless the demand increases again. I mean, it's very difficult when you do a book because I don't want to be sitting on hundreds of pounds worth of books because, you know, I'm not a millionaire, so I don't want to be sitting on hundreds of pounds worth of books. So just doing small print runs for anybody who's interested. And it's worked well before already. The first print run sold out. So yeah. So there we go. Just doing a little podcast between Christmas and New Year. Just like to wish you all Happy New Year. Thanks for everybody who supported us this year. Hopefully we'll carry on going into 2023, although it's been a tricky year. And yeah, that's about it. So signing off there. Thanks very much, guys, for all the support we've had off you. Bye for now.